What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Lapeef. Let's talk. We appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. And with the crew, as usual, we got the Queen, Tawan, Anton, and B Nix. Again, thank you guys for joining us. Want to hit y'all with a little story real quick. She's been with her boyfriend for over 4 years. No promise ring, no engagement ring, no conversation about a wedding. And on top of that, he's cheating on her. She wants to know, should she continue with the relationship or should she leave? I asked her, how many times has he cheated? At least 4 times, she says. When a woman says 4 times, multiply that by 2. So total of 8 times he's probably cheated. Do you love him? Yes, she replies. Does he love you? He says he does, but his action does not show it. What action is that? The cheating. If you love someone, would you cheat on them? B next. Does true love stop you from cheating?
No, I don't. I think honestly, I think it goes beyond love. It's a respect thing. It's a respect and courtesy. I mean, love is love. I feel that, people have different type of love for your moms, love for what, you be in a relationship, but more so in love for what they may provide for you. You may feel love about the services they provide or the transaction or the fact you love infatuated with their look or their mind. But at the end of the day, it's a courtesy and respect. What is the old school saying? Do unto others or you want others do unto you. So I would look at it from that same aspect that if the expectation of the relationship is that is you all are mutually exclusive with each other, then that goes both ways. But we're human beings. We're flawed people. We're born of sin, in sin. So I get that things happen, but then you kind of go back to the layers. Hey, is this like a one-off, like something happened? Then, like, to me, there's a difference between cheating and an affair. Because, thank you for the introduction. Slightly dramatic, but the introduction. But I want to say, like, is she cheating too? Because it's kind of like, hey, if you, been still on the team time and time again, that obviously it doesn't seem like you going anywhere. Shit, are you getting yours too? Because the thing is, if the expectation of you doing your thing and I'm going to do my thing, then, hey, you know what? I don't see neither person leaving each other. But for me personally, I think it's a level of respect that you have to have for your companion.
Anton, does true love stop you from cheating?
All right, so, I got a different take simply because first, I think the story adds context to the question. The question alone it warrants a separate answer, right? So as it relates to the story, I'm always of the impression that if you're not married, you're single. I don't believe in these in between, are we in a relationship and all of this other type of stuff. I'm 100% based off of, hey, he was never yours to begin with, because if he was really looking to have that level of a relationship with you, then he would have married you. Like, I don't want to hear about the engagement. I don't care nothing about that. Like, either you married or you single. So as it relates to that specific question, I think the context adds a little bit as far as layers for me in order to be able to answer that question effectively. As far as just the question itself, can you love somebody and still cheat? I think that's a 3-part question also. I think for women, it's an answer for women, it's an answer for men, and then it's an answer for weak men. I think that let me just stay on the men versus the women, because that's going to add too much complexity. For women, I don't think that women are geared to cheat when they're in a loving relationship. I think that women are more emotionally connected to men, even as it relates to sex, right? I think that, sex is 10 times more enhanced for a lot of women when they are emotionally connected to a guy. So when you're talking about looking at it from a woman's perspective, and I'm only speaking based off of the conversations that I have with women, I think that they're less inclined to cheat when they're really in this connected thing that they're in with a guy. As it relates to men, I think that men can love women and absolutely cheat. I think it's just within men's nature to always want to conquer, always want to, like a guy can look at a chick, not even know her name, bust her down, and then it just be a thing. It don't mean that he has any kind of affection or anything like that. Now we can have a conversation based off of respect, but that don't mean that I have any less affinity for you as a person that I'm in a relationship with just because she was a moment. And so I'm not saying it as it relates to me, but as it relates to men in general. I think that men can truly love somebody and still multitask as it relates to the people that he has involved in his life.
All right. Tawan, coming to you. Does true love stop you from cheating?
Absolutely not. Your morals, your values, your integrity stops you from cheating. And if you don't have those things intact, if you don't have those things in place, you're always going to be looking for something else to supplement, right? When you have morals, when you have values, when you have integrity as a man, as a woman, whoever, then you don't see the need to violate your family, disrespect your situation. You understand like what you're in and the complexity of it. And you respect that union, you respect whatever it is, because that's what you're taught to do. And that's your values, that's your system. And you have integrity. You don't want to do something behind someone's back that you won't be able to tell them about later. And it's different when you have that understanding and, that person knows, hey, this is what I do. And so that y'all have an agreement, and every relationship is different. But when you know that this is a violation of that trust, and you know that this person is not expecting you to go outside of that relationship, go outside of, that the boundaries of whatever you guys have set for your relationship, and you do it anyway, it's connected to who you are as a person. It's connected to your characteristics. It's connected to your value system. And do I think that they don't love the person? I don't believe that. I mean, obviously people make mistakes. That doesn't mean that they're disconnected or they don't love that person. Again, it's all about who they are as a character, who they value, what they value, and what their integrity is. So I absolutely believe that.
All right. Love is powerful. According to a survey, 9 out of 10 Americans say love is an important factor to getting married. If love is an important factor that influences people to get married, how come it doesn't hold the marriage? How come it doesn't hold relationships together? Be next.
Hey, you know what? I almost want to take a script out of Anton book because it's about finances, right? I think that as we see in America right now, present day, nothing against love, but I think it is about finances. Usually most cases, I hate to say it, people cheat. It's not to say it's okay, but it is more normalized. You see more people divorce over finances, lack thereof of finances, or you all had finances and they were lost. Someone was employed, self-employed, whatever the case is, and they're no longer able to provide the finances. So for me, I think really that's the contributor toward divorce. And I don't know. I mean, I think people want to love. I think if you think about it, not to be on no psychology stuff, but you think about from the aspect of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the aspect of belonging. We all, as human beings, we all want to feel that we belong. We want to be with someone. We aspire to be. Now, whether that means marriage or not, it depends on the person's preference. But I think cheating it's a respect. Now, I just want to kind of big up even what Tawana had mentioned from the aspect of your own moral standards, your moral compass. For me, I think it transcends across gender. It doesn't matter. And on some Freud shit, if you think about it, he had 3 aspects how he think: the id, the ego, the super ego. The id is basically your instinct, right? Anton articulated this, saying us being visual creatures, we're socially conditioned as men to be visual creatures. We see something, oh babe, it just happened, Then you got the id, which is basically the reality of the situation. The super ego is almost like you got the angel on one shoulder and you got the devil on the other shoulder. It's the fact is how you're able to have your moral standards of balance in your life. If you feel, as far as your moral standard, it's okay to cheat, it's not a big deal, Or is it only a big deal if you get caught? It's so many layers to this. Do people really care morally, or they only care when, you got me, my bad, I did not mean to do that? So that's the part that folks just need to be adults about it. If you can't be an adult about it up front and set expectation like, yeah, I want to date multiple people, and that being both men and women, then you know what? Maybe marriage isn't for you, or exclusive relationships.
But B-Nix, you didn't address the other part of that, is the person that actually don't necessarily want to cheat, but they cheat because they just feel tempted being in that circumstance or that situation. And we're not talking about people that, you know, are 100% transparent about who they are and having conversations with whoever they're with about how they feel so that they can be proactive as far as solving for any issues that may arise within a relationship. But as far as like people that, because I mean, I've known guys that is not looking to go out and do anything and then just, you know, I'm not going to say fell victim, but allowed themselves to fall into a situation that they wasn't necessarily looking for, right? So what about those type of people? Because I don't think that it's always an intentional action, you know.
I get that. I mean, a lot of this shit is not planned, you know, but the thing is, you know what? If you like, and this goes back to knowing yourself. If you are aware that you may be more vulnerable in a certain setting or more susceptible, you got to remove yourself from it. And I'm going to pivot a little bit. It's almost you look at somebody that's addicted to something, right? Addicted to drugs, addicted to drinking, addicted to being a sneakerhead, all these different things, right? We all have our own our vices. If you know your vice, and that means that I should be mindful about not putting myself in the setting for this to happen because of my instinctual nature. But again, we've talked about this on many different fronts for different topics. If I truly don't know who I am as far as what I represent, my strengths and weaknesses, and what's my standard, then, hey, I will fall victim. But then I get it. Like I said, nobody's perfect. Cheating happens. At that moment, is this a one-off, or is this, hey, man, like we see people that rob, right? Who's the dummy? The person that robs and said, you know what, I'm done. Like we see it in movies. This is my last heist. And they're going to be like, hey, I got one more job I got to do. You get greedy. And that's the thing. Us as human beings, we get greedy with everything. We get greedy with what we eat, what we buy, what we drive, and the same thing with cheating. We keep tapping the well. So the thing is, this goes back to now, it's like you are aware of what you're doing. And if you're not going to address the issue, then you're part of the problem, unless that is considered acceptable behavior.
Dang, B-Nix, I don't have no smoke for you right now. I 1000% agree with every single thing that you just said, fam.
Hey, Tawana.
Yes, sir.
If love is an important factor that influences
Hey, that's
people,
a first, brother. Hey, I'm with you, man. Document that shit.
If love is an important factor that influences people to get married, how come it doesn't hold the marriage?
Because, you know, love is just a feeling, right? And feelings can be temporary. And a lot of people don't acknowledge that, you know, I love somebody, that's a feeling. They don't see the action in love. They don't see the work that it takes to really, really prove that you're committed to a person. And to me, love is an emotion followed by a commitment. It's not just the words. It's not just the lovey-dovey stuff. It's like, okay, this is, you know, I love you. I have these emotions for you, but then I'm going to show you that this is who you're, the person that I'm tied to and I'm committed to. And those are three different steps. So like, you know, somebody claim they love you and then they'll shoot you. Like they you know, it's people that say they love you and they'll fight you. So it's so many different layers to just saying you love somebody. Like actually, you want someone who's committed to you, who's loyal to you, who is supportive of you, who has your best intention. You need to look at other characteristics about individuals to determine whether this is my life partner, right? How many people have we loved, but knowing that we can never be with them forever? You know, it's like, okay, I love family members that I can't be associated with. You know, I love people, but I know the difference between a person that I love and a person that I want to spend the rest of my life with, and the person that I want to move to the next level with. And a lot of times people can't disconnect the two. So you absolutely see people who marry primarily and solely because they love a person. And even if that love is that struggle love that we hear about, even if that love is uncomfortable or you can't be yourself or you're presenting to be something to a person that you really aren't. And then a lot of people really are not honest with themselves about who they actually love, right? They tell you that they love one person, but really, truly, they have some feelings for a whole nother person, but they marry or they get with a person for the perception of being with that person, but they don't truly love that person. They're not truly committed to that person. So it's a lot of different reasons why love is not enough to be in a marriage. I mean, it's never enough. You have to look at other things.
Hey, JR, I got a question for you.
Mhm.
So, because for me, so I was listening to that, and for me, I have a completely different perspective because I don't think love is a feeling at all. Like, I don't think it has anything to do with how you feel. And I think that is important to even continue with this conversation. It's important that we define what we think love is, because I think it's similar to the word friend. It's similar to, respect. It's such a perverted word, and it's been changed and modified, and it's according to whomever it is talking about it at the time and how they was raised to believe what love is. So my question to you is, how do you define love as it relates to people that we care about, such as somebody that we may be in a relationship with, in order for us to kind of set a foundation for this conversation and continue to move forward and have, real good dialogue as far as how we look at people and whether or not we can even attach that word to what it is that we're talking about.
Can you give me an example?
So, for
I was like,
example,
I'm lost.
okay, so I'll give you an example. A lot of people say, I would prefer to have your respect versus your love, because people say they love people every day and do them dirty. Whereas if you respect me, you'll move differently because you have a regard for me in which you wouldn't cross certain boundaries. You see what I'm saying? Or, for example, a lot of people say, well, that's my friend versus saying that's my acquaintance, right? And so in a lot of people's minds, friends are used very loosely. Whereas for me, if I say somebody is my friend, that means that, like, we have a bond that's beyond brotherhood or blood or anything like that. Friendship means more to me. So as it relates to love, how would you define it as, when we're talking about relationships and we talking about people? Because some people think that love is, I can love you, I can feel a certain type of way about you, but I may do you dirty and then come back, but I don't mean that I don't love you. Whereas other people look at love more from a biblical perspective, as far as somewhat what B. Nick said in the beginning when he says, I'm going to treat you according to how I want to be treated. So how do you define love when it comes to relationships so that we can get a little bit more deeper into this conversation?
Well, how I define love is, when I was younger and growing up, I felt though when somebody said love, it was deep. But as I got older, I started to see people were just using that word love pretty loosely. So today, I would say love is a feeling. And I can understand when you say, if you respect someone, you move differently, but we can also look at respect as just another word as well. So I think it's just the mindset on the individual themselves. There are some people that don't say love at all unless they really mean it. But then you got others that say love all the time just to try to get one up on whoever they're dating in a relationship. So I just think it varies on the person. Love is a feeling. And I do agree with you when you say, to me, it's more of a value. If you value someone, I think that you would treat them differently. I wouldn't say respect. I think if you value what you have in front of you, that you would move differently. And so we often hit with that. Do you love them or are you in love? Like those are two other words that people use all the time, and they try to compare to figure out how strong your love is. But either way, whether you love them or you in love with them, it's still a feeling.
See, I look at it completely differently. I don't look at it as a feeling at all. Like, I think that, I'll give you an example, and I have to go outside of the relationship space even to be able to illustrate this example. I can love somebody to want better for them than they want for themselves. So I think it's levels depending on what it is that we're attaching it to. But I don't think it's a feeling, because I think that when you love somebody, it goes beyond how you feel at the moment. Like, I can feel a certain type of way about somebody depending on what our vibe is, or depending on how they made me feel that specific day, or how well that relationship is going. But like, for example, how do we say that love is a feeling when things start going bad, when things are difficult, when issues arise and things aren't going the way that we thought it was going to go? You know, when I look at marriage, and that's why I say it's a difference between marriage and being in a relationship, you literally take vows before God saying, yo, I am going to do this. Like, you're literally creating a covenant or a contract before something that you feel like is greater than yourself, to say, yo, I'm going to abide by this because this person is more important than how I'm feeling at this particular time. And that's why it says in sickness and in health, till death do us part. So that's why I say it's not necessarily a feeling. And again, this is just my opinion. I'm saying it's not necessarily a feeling because it goes beyond whatever you feel at that time. And whatever you're feeling doesn't necessarily dictate what your next move is going to be. It's based off of whatever it is that you feel like is best and the foundation that's set within that relationship. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I said I think it's important for us to define love in the context that we're using it, because I don't think that everybody looks at love the same way.
Well, I feel your point, man. And I don't disagree with what you're saying as far as us defining love. But then if we really think about like defining love, does that mean if we have, found this level of unconditional love and this positive self-regard that we have, and this level that we've reached, this level of being genuine, authentic people, does that mean that we not cheat now? Like, I mean, in theory, on paper, we would say like, oh, well, if you've acquired all these things as your covenant, your union between you and your mate, then it shouldn't be no outsiders, right? But we all know the reality. We're all tempted by different things, So, I mean, it almost, I think that because of the reality of that people do cheat, I think this is also a contributor why people don't marry. Because of the aspect of everything that we just said, that what love we want it to be, how we define it personally, and then we still get hurt. It's like, why put myself in the position to get hurt? Because when we put a ring on it, you would assume like, I shouldn't even have to deal with these type of issues. And I feel that's the part that becomes disheartening. But again, we are flawed human beings, and there's a reality, whether you're, like you mentioned, Anton, whether you're single or married, there's always that aspect that it could happen. And sometimes people don't deal well with that possibility of it dangling out there that someone can cheat more than once.
Yeah.
So do you think that, so if somebody cheats on you, okay, let me revise it, because I want to revisit something that we were having a conversation about in the beginning that I mentioned. Do you think that it's a difference between a guy I already know what your answer is, B-Nix. Do you think that it's a difference between a guy cheating and a girl cheating? Like, is it a difference?
I think there's an aspect of motivation, but you know what I'm gonna say? It doesn't matter about gender. Everybody got different motivation of
That's
why
the
they
only
cheat.
thing we disagree with on this conversation, bro, is that it is. I think it's a difference. It's a complete difference.
Well, okay. I think that, you know what, because we want to say that men are visual creatures and instinctual. The hunter, that's what you mentioned, right? Hey, there's some women hunters out there as well. That's where the term the man eater comes from. All that stuff, man. We think about women who actually look for people that are in situations, say like, I want that. You know what I mean? Sometimes what somebody else has piques someone else's interest. So the thing is, like, I think that everybody cheats for various reasons.
I mean, it's an absolute difference, but does it justify? No. I mean, I feel like, how do you measure it? So are you saying because men cheat with less emotion, it's more justifiable than a woman because maybe she cheats with emotion? I don't agree with that. I think that, yes, we do cheat for different reasons. Absolutely. And sometimes not. Some women are physical and they cheat for those, very reasons. And sometimes, it is emotional. Most times it is emotional. But I don't think we can measure it as why it's justifiable to tolerate it in one relationship versus the other. I just think that it's a difference that we both recognize. Like, that's why we do it. And those are the reasons why men generally give for cheating, and these are the reasons that women typically give for cheating.
But you know what? I don't think that men call it emotion, you know? Because the thing is, if I'm a dude and I see my ex and I got a love for my ex, or we see it, hey, I got a love for my baby mama, or I got a love for the person that I wanted to have that I never had, that I got this one chance, that one night to make it happen. A guy doesn't define it as like, yeah, man, I was
No,
just
I said
emotional.
women cheat for emotional reasons, not
Yeah,
men.
but no, I'm saying that I just don't think men call it emotion, but there
Oh,
is
but
an
you're saying it
aspect
is.
there.
Oh, okay. There is emotion, but
Yeah,
it's
I
not
just don't
called
think
that.
men
They
define
don't
it as
acknowledge it.
such.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you think about like the I won't even say love, but the
Right.
connection
Right.
that a man may have with their ex, or the girl that they wanted to be with and it never quite worked out,
Right.
or the person that they had a child with. Those are unique aspects of connectedness that the thing is, most men aren't going to say like, it was just I was emotionally attached to this person. We're going to say like, yeah, you know, it just kind of happened. Guys always suppress certain ways in which how we articulate why we cheated. But again, people cheat for various reasons.
Right.
You could cheat to be petty. I mean,
obviously there's different
real
reasons
too.
why men and women cheat, and we acknowledge that. And I think that what it needs to be like explained and understood, I guess we over explain it, is that men and women think differently about a lot of different things. And so therefore it's no like shocker that we cheat for very different reasons. I know that women reportedly cheat because they're unhappy in their relationship. They don't feel like they're being emotionally supported. They may have this emotional affair before it even becomes physical, right? And men, they will see a woman visually, think about it, their vibe can be there, and it could happen in a spare of the moment. And a man will have maybe had no intention of cheating, but just out of town, it's convenient, it's where it is, and this is what happens, right? That doesn't make any of the situations okay. It's just because we have differences in our approaches. At the ultimate like goal of it is something moral. It's something that you need to work on your own personal values and your own personal integrity in order to figure out why you feel the need to even entertain those types of things. So it's stuff that we got to work on. That's ultimately why people cheat.
Hey, but people always want what they can't have.
They
Sometimes
always do. That's it.
So again,
I'm
we're
not
human.
personally saying that. I don't think anybody is saying that it's in any way on either person's part, whether you're a guy or a girl, that is justified to cheat. I'm very clear and always saying that wrong is wrong. Yeah. Across the board. If you like, crime is crime, like I said last week, I think wrong is wrong or whatever. And of course we're not dealing with the nuances of different types of relationships. The only thing that I'm saying, well, I'm just saying two things. The first thing that I'm saying is I think context matters. And I think that the problem with people a lot of times is that they aren't having conversations about what their desires are, how they feel. They're not being proactive as far as discussing and being completely open and honest. Because if you are married, right, and I'm speaking to married people specifically in this particular thing, if you are married, that person should literally be your best friend. Like, there should be no better friend than the person that you sleep next to every single night. That's just my personal belief. But then at the same time, you have to be proactive. And I think the reason why I said context matters is because if you better understand who it is that you're sleeping next to, it's no surprise. You can literally solve for any issue that will come across prior to it even happening. The other side the other thing that I'm emphasizing is, and again, I know that there's a difference in perspective amongst the different people that's on this panel, is that I just truly believe that you are not being cheated on if you're not married. Is no repercussions for you just walking away. And I think that people pretend to be or pretend to have the same type of relationships as a person that actually took a covenant before somebody that they feel like, you know, amongst all their friends and, you know, your family, all that stuff is a representation of a greater commitment to a specific person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. I think that that's a difference than somebody saying, oh, we in a long-term relationship. You can't compare the two. And we're not the same. That's all I'm saying. I
think that it's hard because, you know, you don't just jump from this situation to marriage, you know, and I don't know if it's because I've been married before And like, I have just a different approach to it. It's like, okay, I want to do these things first before I get married. And I think that I have a different perspective, but I understand where you're coming from. Like, you single until you get married. But at the same time, like, if I'm loyal to a person, if I'm committed to a person, I'm committed to them, whether the actual relationship or commitment is there. And like you said, when the love is there, it's there. And that's who has your heart, regardless of whether you feel like, I want to be married, I want to move to this next level. You are taking the steps to get there. I think everybody has a bottom line of when that needs to happen. Right? Like, okay, I've been in this relationship 2 years. What's going on? Or I've been doing this with you for this long. Like, everybody has that bottom line. But I do think that it takes a transition, and you can't just go from, okay, we was talking and now we married next day. Like, you gotta get to the steps, you gotta practice.
That's what I did though. Like, I didn't do the whatever this is, however people move as far as, we need to be a relationship. I didn't do none of that. I knew exactly what I wanted when I wanted it. I knew when I wanted it from a specific type of person. That was it for me. I was done.
You know what?
None of that.
Not to make it that simple, Anton, but I feel like I agree with you. I mean, I think I'm from that same creed. It's almost like when you dating somebody, or like even when you get engaged, right? You know what you want. So why wait? It's like, I want it now. So
you already know you want to marry me. What you waiting on?
Yeah. Why are we doing this dance?
Guys know.
But let me tell you,
they know who they want to marry, and they know who they want to jump off with.
But let me tell you, my ex-husband married me proposed to me after 3 months, and we got married after 6 months. Yes, we stayed married for 8 years, and we was together for 10. But ultimately, it didn't work out in my favor. I'm just saying, always rushing is not the best approach. And he was the only man I ever lived with, and the only man that I had ever been in a relationship that length of time with. So I'm just saying, not all the time does, committing right away, it don't always turn out for the best. Sometimes it's like getting to know a person. It's like, okay, cool. Now I know for sure I want to marry you and I want to be with you, I
understand that.
But also going back to just us closing this out, like, this still shows that regardless of, the different type of loves that we identified and defined personally and generally, cheating still happens, So the thing is, does love prevent it?
No.
It doesn't.
We all agree that it don't. Love ain't enough.
I agree, B-Nix. I agree 100%.
All right, I kind of want to close us out with this. When you examine love in a breakup, I believe one of 3 things has happened. There was no love at the beginning of the relationship to start with. There was something bigger than love that broke the relationship, and the love faded. When you have true love, there's nothing bigger than that love that can break a relationship. If that couple truly loves each other. And we're going to end it on that note.